Be careful how you think. Your life, our lives, are shaped by our thoughts. We are meditating on First Kings chapter 19. We started on Monday, Tuesday, and today we're going to give continuation. The story of the prophet Elijah, Ahab, the king of Israel, and his wife Jezebel. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, also how he had executed all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, "So let the gods do to me, and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow, about this time." And when he saw that, he arose and ran for his life and went to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a broom tree. And he prayed that he might die, and said, "It is enough." An angel touched him and said to him, "Arise and eat." Then he looked, and there by his head was a cake baked on coals, and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. And the angel of the Lord came back the second time and touched him and said, "Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you." So he arose and ate and drank, and he went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights as far as Horeb, the mountain of God. Very well. When we read about Elijah hearing all the threats that came to him, they were telling him, "We're going to kill you. We're going to deal with you." The Bible mentions something interesting because it says here, when he saw that, he arose and ran for his life. So it's clear that um, Elijah heard. He didn't see anything. Physically, he didn't see anything. First, he heard. And because he didn't deal with those negative words, he allowed those words to play on his mind, and it became an ugly imagination. It became a nightmare, a horror movie. And this is the danger of entertaining bad thoughts. Our thoughts, they shape our life, our future. That's why we have to be careful what we think about. So when he started to imagine, and he started to think about the worst case scenario, like, how are they going to kill me? How I'm going to end up? It made things only worse. So he became a prisoner of his thought. And I'm just thinking about the moment he allowed his thoughts to suffocate him. Look what he did. He ran for his life. But one more thing, he left his servant there. So this is one of the worst things you can do when you are struggling with bad thoughts, evil thoughts, or even mental health problems. The worst thing you can do is to isolate yourself. The worst thing you can do is to run away from everyone and be alone, hide in the closet, lock yourself up in your room, and not speak to the outside world, and not even communicate with your loved ones and family members about your mental health challenges. And sometimes the devil may put in the mind of the person that they should be embarrassed, they should be ashamed, you shouldn't open up about that. But that's exactly why God has given us a family. Family is a blessing. God has given us a family, especially so that you can have healthy conversations. You can have a heart to heart talk and open up about the challenges that you go through. I know that only God can bring us eternal peace. Only God can resolve the spiritual matters. But it's a blessing to have somebody in your family that is willing to listen. You know, sometimes when people think about helping their family, they often think about helping physically, financially, material goods. But one of the biggest blessings we can give to our family is to be a listening ear, not just a shoulder to cry on, but more importantly, to be available to listen, even 1 hour, 2 hours, just to listen to what the person is going through. And I believe that Elijah made a mistake because he had his servants with him, which was somebody very trustworthy, uh, somebody that he could open up to, and he could have easily spoken to the servant and say, "Look, I've got a lot of bad thoughts." Uh,
Even to share ideas, right? Look, we received this threat. What do you think it should be done? Let's brainstorm here together and let's work out a plan. But no, he went and hid. I'm thinking about people that suffer from anticipation.
mhm,
So, like Elijah, he heard the threats, and I can imagine he started to make a movie
mhm,
imagining how it was going to be. He started to think, look, I took the sword and I killed the prophets, and then he started to imagine playing this movie in his head of that happening to him, and filled his heart with fear.
mhm,
So there are people that suffer from anticipation. For example, we have wives that when they come and work abroad, they leave their husbands behind. But they already leave thinking like this: my husband will betray me, my husband will get another woman.
mhm,
So they already start to suffer
mhm,
from anticipation, and they start to behave in a way
mhm,
that actually can make this happen,
mhm,
because as you think, so it shall be, right? So uh, the worst problem is suffering from anticipation. You don't have any facts, you don't have anything to hold on to. That
yeah,
is just words, empty threats. And sometimes it's not the threat of a person, but the devil brings
yeah,
threats to you. Threat of, oh, you are not going to be able to keep your contract. You are going to be fired. You will not be able to handle the pressure at work. You will not be able to handle financially. You better just kill yourself. These are
yeah,
thoughts, threats that not necessarily comes from other people,
uh-huh,
but the devil comes and plant these seeds on you to see whether or not you water it. And then people get emotional, they start crying, watering
mm,
those seeds of
yeah.
the devil.
This is very powerful because the seed is inside of the person, but the person is watering it, and because of that, it grows. And this is like an excessive worry. It hasn't happened yet. Nothing has happened yet. The person didn't lose the job yet. The partner has not cheated yet, but they are the one creating this anticipatory anxiety, which is very dangerous. And this is exactly what happened to Elijah, but it could have been avoided if he would have spoken to the servant. And that's why it's so important. Um, it's so important to have healthy conversations, of course, with the right people, with the right people. Um, and as I told you earlier on, we know God is the one to resolve our inner issues. But there are moments in time when a person may need consultation, a person may need guidance, advice, a person may need to open up about their situation. And that's why we have the family event. The family event that we have this weekend, Empowering Families, is not just to pray for family. We pray for family every day. But how do you practice this and use this in a practical way? Okay, like we mentioned earlier on, to be like the servant, to take the role of the servant, and the role of the servant would be a listening ear. Of course, you cannot control people if people don't want to talk to you, right? You cannot blame yourself if your loved ones don't want to open up to you. You cannot force them to speak, but to be available as a listening ear, that's important in the process for God to work. I believe if Elijah would have opened up, the servant would have listened and would have spoken sense to him, right? Because the servant is looking from a different angle. He said, no, you're a prophet. You're a man of God. You're not living in sin. God is with you. You've been victorious. You're going to be victorious again. He would point out what Elijah would not be able to see at that moment. Sometimes you have a person that is looking from the outside, and the person can see what you cannot see. And that's why we have family counseling, marriage counseling in the church. Sometimes one advice, one different angle, one different perspective can help the person see everything in a different way, and they realize, oh, my problem is not that big. My problem is not impossible. Think about this and reflect on this. Have you been taking advantage of that? Coming to God's servants, going to the servant of God for you to find guidance, counseling, a word of advice. Huh? Because Elijah had a servant, but he didn't use the servant. And sometimes people, they are in the church, they have God's servants, but they don't make use of God's servants. Okay, that's our invitation for you to make use of God's servants.
Make use of us.
All right, we have the assistants as well. All right, so we will continue next week as we will start on Monday again, Tuesday and Wednesday, where we left off today, 1 Kings chapter 19. And may all of you have a blessed day, and do not forget, it's the Bible study. You can still join us 11 a.m., 3 p.m., 9 p.m. in English as we continue the Wednesday of the Great Harvest. God bless you all abundantly. Join us again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. God bless.